I was starting my second year of law school when he started. I was able to observe the influence that he had on the development of international human rights at the University of Minnesota Law School, because basically it went from nothing at the time I was in law school to now having one of the best curricula on international human rights in the country and most likely in the world.
David and I came at the very same moment in the fall of 1975. And over the years, our families became close. We weren't just colleagues, but friends. We did traveling together.
Well, I met David when I was a student at the University of Minnesota Law School. I found him engaged with the world, able to make effective change, but also living a sustainable life outside of the hard work of human rights.
David initially, to me, was just a faculty member, but then when I found out there was this common focus on human rights and also public interest, I got to know him better, and he developed right before my eyes into an international expert in the area of human rights.
David was really creating the reputation of the law school. He built the center. He brought renown to the university through the work he had been doing in the UN. We wouldn't be where we are today if it weren't for the work that he had done and the way that he had done it.
There was no human rights focus in Minnesota, especially before he came. I know there was a legacy of civil rights with Hubert Humphrey and Walter Mondale. There were people like Don Fraser who had a lot of passion and enthusiasm, but he was our leader. So that's how it all started. And it went on like forever.
If he saw something that needed attention, he was very visionary and creative in figuring out a way to do it. So I remember he heard about a center for victims of torture somewhere else in the world. And he said, well, why don't we have one of those in Minnesota? And he created an institution that to today is very important and well established and well funded. And the same, I think, can be said for advocates for human rights.
I brought the publication, the Human Rights Quarterly, which is where he always published his report of the subcommission. He was just an excellent diplomat, very down to earth, very kind of empathetic, understanding kind of communication style, and at the same time, very strong, extremely strong, principled, and he wasn't going to give up.
The elders used to say, still waters run deep. And David was a quiet person. He faced the most horrific situations, but he was not one of those hair on fire type of people. If you got to the point where you were ready to lose your composure because of a situation, David would go like this. And he didn't want you to just frazzle. He wanted you to stay composed and focused and be able to do the work.
Because we had offices next door to each other for more than 40 years, I could see the steady stream of students, sometimes lined up outside his office to see him.
He didn't hold himself in some kind of special high regard, in an academic sense above the students. That he had that sense of, hey, we're all working on this.
I began to wonder if perhaps he would have some people who would be interested in the public interest area as a career. And so he would bring me the best people that he told me he could find.
He was always an inspiration because he always came to us with the ideas.
For instance, the Human Rights Library was another thing where it started at Minnesota, but its access was for the entire world.
I ended up going to the law firm where Pat, David's wife, was practicing. And so I got to know them both. She was always a good colleague to talk to because she knew so much about so many things, and she was very well traveled herself.
What one man can do with his conviction and with his dedication and brute force, if you will, is what ultimately has made this great law school and the center have the reputation it has today.
David really was vested in the work continuing. He nurtured and sought brilliant people to take his place. It's our expectation that the university will continue its brilliance, its courage, and its truth-telling on human rights.
I think the students today, even if they've never met him or never had the privilege of studying with him, benefit from his legacy. The Human Rights Center and Professor Neil Lane and Professor Green and others are carrying on his legacy, and that's a very proud thing to be working on. So I think that the students who come here today should know about it and should be proud that they too can become part of that legacy, because it's all about the future and the students. As far as I can tell, the future of the law school is in very good hands with the students today. We bask in David's reflected glory and the institution that he built. So there's a lot that we can be extremely proud of. You know, even after his passing, it continues to be like a beacon in the world of international human rights. I think he deserves total credit for that, because it just didn't exist before he came and built it.